What's up, guys? You are just in time to today's video, and today I'm going to be talking about trade for and trade away candidates. Let's jump right into it. 2 weeks into the season, I wanted to wait to make this video because obviously you can't really go off of one game sample size, and I'm not saying 2 games is much better, but you have a little bit of the preseason, you have a couple of games underneath your belt, so you can start looking at certain trends and look at who are some good players that not only trade for but trade away, and players you can find value and sell at the tippy top of their value. So let's talk about some of those players today. For starters, I want to talk about the players that I want to trade for. And it could be for many different reasons, but I'll explain why. At the quarterback position, I want to trade for Patrick Mahomes. Yes, I know, who wouldn't want Patrick Mahomes? And saying it out loud sounds silly, but what you have to understand is a lot of players were disappointed with Patrick Mahomes last year, and they wouldn't have drafted him at that same price tag this year. But for whatever reason, a combination of him and Travis Kelce was slipping to later rounds, so people thought he was a value. In most drafts, third, fourth round, and even at that price tag, you still had a little expectation of him being Patrick Mahomes. He is a borderline quarterback one right now at the QB 12. He's only averaging 14 points per game, and at the quarterback position, that is not going to move the needle. That not only doesn't really help you, but in a lot of situations could lose you the week. A lot of players are probably frustrated with Patrick Mahomes and think that without his weapons, he's not going to be a staple in the fantasy community. But I'm here to tell you that's going to change. They just lost Isaiah Pacheco. He's going to be on the IR for at the very least 4 games, if not more. He's probably not going to come back towards the end of the season. They're going to probably rest him up until his bye. So this offense is going to shift from a run-heavy offense to a pass-heavy offense. And that's where Patrick Mahomes shines. So if you can get your hands on not only Patrick Mahomes, but I'll give you a bonus player, Travis Kelce, please do so before it's too late. At the running back position, I want you to trade for Jerome Ford. But Nick Chubb's coming back. Why would I trade for a player that don't have value after these next few weeks? Yes, Nick Chubb, for one, is going to be off the IR in 2 games. But that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be ready to come back and contribute to this team. Just because you have to be on the IR for at least 4 games doesn't necessarily mean that you're only going to have those 4 games. He needs to get back into game shape, and he needs to get back into the point where he can contribute to this team. Jerome Ford will be the starting running back until that happens. And look at his next few weeks. He plays not only the New York Giants this week, but Las Vegas and Washington. He's going to kill these next few weeks. So at the very least, trade for him where his value is pretty low and get a great starting running back for these next few weeks. With the possibility of long-term value if Nick Chubb decides he's not going to come back, or if he does come back, a complimentary player, maybe 5 to 8 rushes a game, and Jerome Ford is going to be the lead back. I can see a situation where they ease Nick Chubb into the game plan and possibly save him for the playoffs. At the tight end position, let's talk about Kyle Pitts. I think he is an easy candidate to trade for. Again, same thing like Patrick Mahomes. Kyle Pitts was getting drafted as a value this year compared to most years because people got tired of drafting him and being disappointed. But you still had an expectation of him performing because of he's Kyle Pitts. He is the tight end 7, yes, but that's not saying much with the tight end landscape this year. He's got 3 catches in the first 2 games each, and he did score a touchdown in game 1. But his value is at an all-time low. People are not confident in this Atlanta offense. I'm here to tell you it's going to get better. Kirk Cousins is going to get healthy. He's going to perform a lot better at the quarterback position, but he's going to make his pieces around him perform. One thing that you can use, Kyle Pitts is actually 5th on the team in targets right now, even though he's playing 85% snaps. Again, his value is at an all-time low. Go get Kyle Pitts. This Atlanta offense has only scored 3 touchdowns in the first 2 games, and again, they're going to get better. At the wide receiver position, let's talk about Chris Olave. Your wide receiver, 52. And oh my God, if you want to talk about disappointments, the number 1 disappointment in fantasy football this year, if you got to talk about Chris Olave. He was drafted in the 2nd round and supposed to be his breakout season, and he's going in the opposite direction. The Saints offense is booming the first 2 weeks, averaging 40 plus, and Chris Olave is nowhere to be found. He's not going to be the wide receiver 52 at the end of the season. He's going to get on page with Derek Carr. The Saints offense is going to get to a point where they're not going to be scoring 42 points a game by rushing the ball. They're going to start getting in shootouts. They're going to have trouble with their defense once they play better teams. Chris Olave is a staple in his offense, and if managers are disappointed with him, get him at value. He's leading the wide receiver in snap percentage, but last on the team, I feel like, in target percentage. Now let's talk about players I want to trade away. Speaking of the Saints, let's talk about Derek Carr, your quarterback 2. Do I think Derek Carr is going to finish as the quarterback 2? Of course not. He's had a good couple games, and he's very efficient. He's only averaging about 19.5 passes a game right now. That's not going to cut it. He does have a couple of games coming up that can be considered a rough patch. He's got Philly coming up, and he's got his division rivals, Atlanta, Tampa Bay, and Kansas City. Trade away Derek Carr if possible. Quarterbacks in general are very hard to trade for or trade away. If you could package him with a running back or wide receiver and upgrade at that position, do so, please. At the running back position, as much as it pains me to say this, you need to trade away Devon Achane, the running back 2 right now. This Miami Dolphins offense is going to be a huge downgrade without Tua. A lot of people are off of Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, but I feel like a lot of people still has confidence in Devon Achane because he's a running back and he's going to get manufactured touches. Yes, I do agree that he's going to get manufactured touches, but this rush game and this offensive line is atrocious, and Tua knew how to get the ball out quick. Skylar Thompson, I'm not so sure. They're going to be playing games where they're going to be out of it after the first half, and Devon Achane will not be a factor. On top of Raheem Mostert coming back soon. At the tight end position, like we talked about with Chris Olave, if we're talking about number 1 players in fantasy football that's disappointing you, Chris Olave is probably up there, and so is Dalton Kincaid. Right now, in a terrible tight end landscape, he's a tight end 21. He's been completely terrible. In a run-heavy offense, I don't see it getting much better. This Buffalo team is winning right now with defense and running the ball. James Cook is definitely going to finish as a top 5 running back. They just don't really need to pass the ball. He's got guys that he's got receivers that he doesn't really trust. He doesn't have alpha wide receivers, so the game plan is not going to be based on the passing offense. It's going to be based off of rushing. Again, that doesn't really help Dalton Kincaid. On top of that, you got Dawson Knox sharing snaps. If you can get something for Dalton Kincaid based off of name value, do so with the quickness. And last but not least, I want to talk about the wide receiver 8 on the year, Alec Pierce, who is pretty much getting a touchdown every single game. And if you average that out, he's going to get 17 touchdowns in 2024, and that's obviously not true. This passing offense, again, just like the Buffalo Bills and Indianapolis, is run first. So yes, he hit on a couple of long bombs that was going to help his projections, but that's not something you can count on a week-to-week basis. On top of Josh Downs coming back, Alec Pierce will move into the wide receiver 2, maybe even wide receiver 3 position. Michael Pittman, again, another disappointment, is not going to continue to funk. I do trust this Indianapolis Colts offense to get a lot better. Anthony Richardson also has not been playing very good, so all signs are pointing to this offense getting a lot better, but I don't think Alec Pierce is going to be the focal point of this offense with Michael Pittman, Josh Downs coming back, Adrian Mitchell, JT. I mean, there's just too many mouths to feed for him to continue this pace. If you can package him with somebody else and upgrade that position, do so with the quickness. So that's the end of today's video. Thanks for following along. I'll see you guys next time.